For the state government, the timing of today's confirmation of a power price rise is rather awkward. The Treasurer is building a case for asset sales, including electricity generators, ahead of next week's pre-election budget, with private sector funding of distribution also in the mix. The government says something has to be done to reduce debt, but economists are divided over whether assets should be sold, and workers are being warned to expect job cuts and further price rises if privatisation goes ahead. Maria Hatzakis reports.
Each morning, 6 days a week, hundreds of people queue for free food at this charity at Kingston on Brisbane's south side. The rising cost of living, including electricity prices, has pushed many families to the edge.
The power is so high these days already that you just think that you can't cook, you can't use the washing machine, you can't use your fridge. We turn the fridges off in the night time and we put them back in the morning because of that.
We're just at the point where we just don't know what to do. We just really don't know. And if it wasn't for places like Chiba Judah, we just probably would live off noodles or something like that.
And families are worried there could be more pain to come as the state government prepares to hand down its budget on Tuesday.
An $80 billion debt with an interest bill of $4 billion every year.
The government spent $6 million highlighting its debt dilemma.
So we have to take action. We have to do that if we want to invest in Queensland's future.
The interim results of its Strong Choices survey found Queenslanders preferred a rise in taxes on gambling, mining and gas projects to privatisation. But attracting private money to state assets appears to be the favoured option, especially after the tough federal budget.
More cuts to cuts would lead to a decline in services, and more taxes on taxes would increase the cost of living.
Asset sales proved politically disastrous for the previous government.
Queenslanders do not like asset sales.
Experts are divided. Some say less debt would mean lower interest payments.
We used to be AAA. If we can get that back, we can save significant amounts on our borrowing costs. So it adds about 0.2 percentage points to our borrowing costs. So if you look at an $80 billion debt, then we could save a couple of $100 million per annum.
Others have a different view.
Well, it will reduce debt and it will reduce assets, just like selling your house will reduce your debt and your assets, but it won't make any difference to the net position. The government keeps saying we're spending $4 billion a year in interest. Well, the things we're selling are also bringing money in, and the government never mentions that.
The government stresses nothing would be sold before the next election. But if it proceeds, it hopes to drag more than $32 billion into state coffers. The big ticket items are likely to be the Gladstone and Townsville ports and Mount Isa rail line, along with electricity generation and retail businesses. But most of the money, more than $28 billion, would be generated by allowing private investment in electricity distribution and transmission businesses.
That privatised electricity assets result in higher prices for consumers. We know if you sell the ports in Queensland, the costs will go up. The buyers of these assets will jack up prices.
Today, Queenslanders learned their power bills could spike 13.6% in July. Even if the carbon tax is repealed, they'll still go up by more than 5%. The government wouldn't be drawn on what could happen under a private investment plan.
It is most important we stabilise prices. We can't continue the way we are going. The issue in relation to any equity injection is a matter for the Treasurer and potentially for the budget next week.
Business is worried consumer confidence could suffer.
You cannot yet count on business support for selling assets. You need to prove what the impact will be on price and service. At the moment, they don't support it. They don't support it because there's fears about prices will rise and services will deteriorate.
Unions fear privatisation will lead to job losses too.
We've already seen privatised QR shedding hundreds of jobs recently, and in fact the Premier was on record as saying that's what you get when you get privatisation. Many of our rural communities will see jobs cut in our electricity companies, and of course you won't see the same level of training for apprentices under these privatised companies.
I think the unions are probably right to be concerned about jobs, and they're worried about their members, because when you look at the gains that do come from privatisations around the world, well, we have to be realistic about this. A lot of the inefficiencies that exist in publicly owned corporations exist in the labour arrangements.
North Queensland's peak economic lobby group believes Townsville's port would be better off in private hands.
They haven't been able to make a long-term plan for infrastructure into the port. If they can't do that because of the fiscal conditions and the austerity measures they've got in place, then allow the private enterprise to have a crack at it.
The Chamber of Commerce and Industry says the state should push for an increase in the GST.
We think there's a degree of leadership required by the state government and the Commonwealth government on being prepared to address the GST. If we could, back in 1999, get all of the state governments and the Commonwealth to agree to introduce the GST, we don't think it is unreasonable that they can agree on broadening the base and increasing the rate.
We still have a bunch of taxes, land taxes and payroll tax, for example, that are low by comparison with other states. It's not clear that we're getting any particular benefit from those things.
But many families are just focused on living from day to day.
It's very, very hard. We can't afford to pay the bills, and it's getting very tough for me and my family.
Pretty darn sure the price will be going up, but keeping up with it and sorting it out is definitely a major concern, I should imagine, not just for me, but a whole bunch of other people as well.